Welcome to the Down There Where podcast. I'm Amy Milne. This is the show where we get loud about women's below-the-belt health from menstruation to menopause and everything in between. So many women continue to silently endure issues like endometriosis, PCOS, menstrual disorders, and menopause-related challenges without the proper support. We're done with the whispers. We're here to break the taboos, share the stories, and have the conversations no matter how uncomfortable. Whether you're dealing with your own health journey, supporting someone who is, or just ready to join the movement, you're in the right place. Let's get loud. Okay, so I'm just going to say, Wendy, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here, Wendy. I'm learning all about you. This is actually the first time we've met, but I feel like even just record, get to know each other, I feel like we might be soulmates. I'm gonna be as bold as that.
Hug each other.
100%.
Ooh,
multiple times when we meet in real life. Yeah, I feel the same. So Wendy, tell everybody who's listening right now who you are.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. We have people in common that we already love. So by proxy,
Yes, we
we
do.
love each other. You know, that's what I believe.
Yeah.
So I'm Wendy, Wendy Petties. I'm a native New Yorker. I am 57 years old and proud of it. I'm always like I'm always skeptical of people who don't want to talk about age because I'm like, if you stop aging, then you're dead. Like, I don't, no, I'm 57 with gray hair and it's perfectly okay. So I am excited about this topic because of my personal experiences and also because of some of the work that I do. I work with women and I believe that pleasure can save our lives. And so it is all intertwined, and I'm glad to just dive in and let's talk about this. Let's get the word out and let's save some women's lives.
I love that you say, I love so much of what you've said already. And when you say save lives, it's so true. I mean, there's so many times that I have these conversations about, endometriosis or hysterectomies, and, people are like, but you don't die from it. And it's like, so maybe not, like maybe my heart doesn't physically stop beating, but so many of these issues that we are suffering from and inflicted with, and it fucks with our lives. Like the save our lives thing just resonates so deeply with me because we can live better, and that's what we're saving.
And so it's not cancer, but I would argue that it's just as important and
Great.
just as devastating and painful, and it chips away at your life. I mean, I went through 11 years of trying to save my fertility, and at the end, I wound up having a hysterectomy, and I went to my doctor and I said, I feel like I'm going to die, either from bleeding to death or because I just don't want to live like this anymore. And he burst into tears because he said, oh my God, I've been trying to save your fertility all these years, and I forgot that you're a person. It was like the goal to have a baby, which I probably in hindsight had given up on years before. But I was doing the procedures, Lupron multiple times, myomectomies, uterine fibroid embolisms, all kinds of things for 11 years, just healing myself enough to try the next procedure, the next thing. And I was miserable and sick and tired and hurting. And so, whoa, yeah, I hear you. People don't think of it as, saving lives, but it is. It is. And then when you get into, how people feel about women and how people feel about women's health and sexuality and all of those things and pleasure in and of itself, it is an epidemic, if you will.
Agreed. And again, I like how you framed it in saving your fertility, but not necessarily
Hmm.
saving yourself. And that seems so
Yeah.
counterintuitive. Um, because even if we don't save ourselves, we can't be our best selves and our best kind of human, whether we are, you know, however we want to look at it, that we end up having children, whether that's
Hmm.
a blessing or not. We have to be well enough to then head into
Yep.
parenthood as well. And because that's not the easiest
No.
job in the world. And so I'm so glad you saved
Thank you.
yourself.
Thank you. Me too.
Because I think through that journey we kind of went down, and I think we're going to go up because you said things like
Yes.
native New Yorker.
Yes.
That's freaking cool. And you've said something about women's pleasure, which I am so
Mm-hmm.
intrigued by. And those of you who can't see, Wendy's name is on her screen and it
Yes.
says sexy money. So I need to learn more
Yes.
about
Yes.
that
Yes.
as well. So native New Yorker, that doesn't happen
I
very
know.
often,
I
I
know.
don't
It's
think.
funny because there was just something that I saw on Instagram about being a native New Yorker versus a New Yorker versus a transplant, and it was hysterical and spot on. Native New Yorker means we were born here and went to school here. You know, like went to a public school, could tell you what your high school is, all of that. If you're a New Yorker, you have lived here for a while, but you didn't grow up here. You
Right.
know, and a transplant are the people who go to the bodega and think that they're going to get like, garlic aioli on their bacon, egg, and cheese, or they're going to get oat milk in their, regular
Oh my
coffee.
God, I
And
love
so
it.
we just laugh at them. But yes, I am a native New Yorker from Queens, born and raised. I lived in
Love
Vegas
that.
for about 5 years during the pandemic,
Cool.
but never left my rent stabilized apartment. I have a house also, and so it is, I am a bit of an anomaly in a bunch of ways, and that is okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. That's why you're here, because you're that
Yeah. Thank you.
interesting. I'm sure we could talk an hour on what it's
Yes,
like to be a
and we'll
native New
do that
Yorker.
when we see each other in
Um,
person.
yeah, totally. And okay, so talk to me about pleasure. Like, talk to me about women's
Yeah.
pleasure and why it's the cornerstone of who you have
Yeah.
become, I believe.
So in the early 80s, 90s, around there, probably 90s, height of HIV and AIDS, I worked the first part of
Hmm.
my life for nonprofits, national nonprofits.
Hmm.
And I worked for one, and we got a grant from the Red Cross to do a program called Sisters in the Face of AIDS. And what it was about was
Okay.
they wanted to train someone as a sex educator to go out to communities of color and speak to women about condom usage, how to get their men to use condoms to save their lives. This seems to be a theme with us, like saving our lives. And
Yeah.
so it was a pretty conservative organization. I don't know why they applied for the grant if they didn't want to do it, but I was like, I'll do it. I was in my stupid
Hmm.
20s. We'll do anything in our 20s. Like, woohoo, okay, great. So I
Yep.
went, I learned all this stuff about human sexuality and about pleasure and about, like how to talk to these people, and that it would be controversial because these women were enjoying sex with their partners, and condoms
Hmm.
at the time especially were, you only use a condom if you think I'm dirty or you think I am, or getting pregnant or
Right.
whatever. And so, they taught us this whole thing. So I go in with my little clipboard. I remember I had my little skirt on. I was ready. I'm in a community center in like the projects in Brooklyn. And I walk in and I'm like, hey, we're going to talk about this. And don't worry, your men will still have pleasure. And they were like, look, little girl, sit down because we're not having sex with him for pleasure. And I was like, huh? They said it's kind of like a chore. Like we do it and he gives me stuff. He either stays around or he pays my bills or he does this. Like it's an exchange. And we don't really care about this condom stuff because, first of all, HIV and AIDS is men sleeping with men, white
Hmm.
people,
Hmm.
and I was like, no, 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 no. And so I just started to talk to them. And I just sat down and I was like, you're having sex that it doesn't feel good. And they were like, oh, we don't really care. And I was like, oh my God. So I was in school at the time. I started to get
Hmm.
curious. And so I went for more sex ed classes. I took all these psychology classes, which is how I ultimately became a psychologist because I couldn't understand the
Okay.
disconnect between this could save your life and we don't care. I was like,
Hmm.
what? So
Yeah.
in the midst of all of that, I I still kept coming back. We kept talking, saved some of them. They made changes. They kind of understood my perspective. I understood their perspective. And I was really good at it, talking to people, getting people to trust me, that kind of stuff. I went and left that job, kept doing the workshops in my community, started talking to everybody. I was asking my aunts, I was asking people in the supermarket, are you having sex with people that you don't want to have sex with? Are you not having pleasurable sex? And they would like, oh God. But they would answer me. They would feel like, well, I never
Right.
thought about it, or no, or, and so I kept doing these workshops.
Right.
I went for the money and went and worked on Wall Street, second phase of my career. Really, really stressful. But I was having these workshops, any free moment I had having these workshops. But I started getting sick myself about my own gynecological stuff, and was just, like I said, it was the timing. I was healing myself enough to do the next procedure. Never connecting the two. This is what I do to help people in the community. I have to make this money at work, and this happens to be going on with my body. Never connected any of this stuff. And then I started I left that job, went and worked for a major airline. It was a startup. It was amazing, and I got harassed at work. Put up with it for 6 months. And when I left there, I sued them. I won. The NDA is over now. Yes. Sued them, won, have enough money that I don't have to work again. But I couldn't get out of bed. Very depressed. Again, not seeing any of the connections. And I knew that I wanted to live. I knew I didn't want to stay in this. And I went back to what I learned 20 years before about pleasure, about how that can fuel you enough, give you enough energy to do the things that you want to do and that you desire. I wound up filing bankruptcy, and I was, within 4 years, had healed my credit situation, became a millionaire, and healed my body physically and emotionally from starting at a basis of pleasure. Things like, I have this beautiful glass. There's iced tea in it, but it's beautiful and it feels good. And so I fuel myself with making those little decisions so that I'm ready for big decisions about, what do I want? What do I not want? What feels good? What doesn't feel good? It's not just sexual pleasure. It's pleasure in your whole self, in your whole life. Specifically, how you feel about yourself, how you feel about other people, and you have to take care of your money. Because with those three things, you can do anything. And so that's how I build pleasure into everything that I do. And that's what I do to help women. And so it became Sexy Money as my brand. And so that's the underlying story of how I got to being here.
Wow. Okay, so I'm just going to sit here for days, and I want to just listen to you, and I want you to heal me. So, and I know there's so many women right now on the edge of their seats going, okay, so what do I need to do? I love that you brought up the pretty glass. I realized I had this mug that was given to me, and it's a heated mug, and it was in a drawer. And I drink a lot of tea, and I live in Canada. I live in the mountain, or some people, I don't live in the mountains like the Rockies. I live on a ski hill, and it's chilly. And I'm like, why am I not using my mug that was gifted to me?
I got goosebumps from you.
To keep my tea warm.
Goosebumps from you.
And then I'm like, I'm going to have warm tea every day, because why not? And it's the same, I've learned to, in hitting menopause, surgical menopause after my hysterectomy, and the weight gain and the body changes and the figuring it all out and all the hormone changes, and you don't feel like yourself. And, I remember as a younger woman, especially as I got pregnant or after babies, you just kind of shove yourself back into clothes, because you're like, oh, I was an 8 or I was a 6 or I was a 12, whatever the case may be. But I didn't. And I know many of my girlfriends didn't go buy the clothes that fit so that we could feel good. So our bodies had done what it needed to do. So we were, back to that, we're living and we're alive. And you said, at 57, I believe aging is a gift. And I think every birthday should be I think every day should be celebrated. But birthdays, for sure, bust out the confetti. And then over the last years, I'm like, well, I'm going to invest in clothing that fits my body.
That feels good.
So even if I feel like shit, and it feels good and it's good quality, and I'm not just going to go Old Navy and buying the t-shirt that's going to fall apart. It's like, I'm going to invest because I don't know if I'll be thinner or stronger or whatever. But it's those little micro moments that and decisions that help. Doesn't, to me, it's always like that compound effect. So you said bankruptcy. So you said like in bed bankruptcy to all of this. So take me through your journey in terms of starting with pleasure.
So, I mean, when I look back at my life, I see it in the 3 phases of kind of my career. I had the nonprofit, then I had Wall Street, and then I had the airline. And nonprofit was like altruistic, like who I really was. I could help people, but I was making no money. But I was happy, but making no money. Then I went and worked on Wall Street, and I was absolutely miserable, but making more money than I could ever do anything about. I mean, it was insane. And I had to be a different type of person in order to keep that up. And I did it.
Right.
And then I went and worked for the airline where it was so much of my identity. I was so connected to that was who I worked for and what I did. And a little bit was altruistic, and I wasn't making a lot of money, but, and all through that time, I was healthy when I was working for the nonprofit. I was not healthy at all. That's when all my gynecological problems started, when I was working on Wall Street. All the masculine energy that I had to exude. I mean, I can look at it now and be reflective, but I didn't know this was going on. And I wasn't paying attention. And so, wasn't taking care of myself, was getting sick, was trying anything in this frantic way, not taking time to think, not taking time to figure out, does that feel good? Does it not feel good? Blah, blah, blah. I had an accident and wound up having spinal surgery, and my doctor slipped me into hospital that he was a partner, a private hospital, which cost me like $200,000. Like I had insurance, but it was also kind of the lifestyle. And so I remember talking to him, and he was like, I'm going to send a car for you. It's far, blah, 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 blah. And in that, Wall Street era, I was used to those kind of things. And so I just went along with it. And when I got all these bills, that's what happened. I was like, I can't pay for these things. So I had all this medical debt, all these things, wasn't feeling well. I just lost the parts of myself. Certainly wasn't doing anything in terms of pleasure. During the nonprofit time, I was thinking about pleasure because I was helping other people, but had disconnected that part in myself when I went and worked for Wall Street. And it wasn't until the shit hit the fan at the airline and I was being harassed by this asshole that I really snapped out of it. It took me 6 months. Like, I'm not going to say like, I am a New Yorker, and like in hindsight, I was like, what happened to you? But after 6 months of putting up with this bullshit, I had to get out of there. And I said to them, the next conversation we have will be with my attorney. I don't know where it came from, but I got it. And within 2 weeks, I had a settlement. The only thing that was important to me, the money was important, but also that I knew that I didn't do anything wrong. And to this day, if I went back to that company, it says in there she could be rehired, she could whatever, that it was not my fault. It was really important to me. But then what? My identity was stripped. I had no money. I had filed bankruptcy. I was healing, but not great. I was 100 pounds overweight, 100 pounds. And so I was all messed up. And so I remembered, something in me remembered about what matters to you. What feels good? Baby steps. So I was able to get out of the bed and take a shower. Because I did this with clients. Like, I had this little business on the side where, I was doing these workshops and helping people and whatever, and I would tell them.
Right. Which has been which was like your through line, right? Like, you were still
Always
doing
still
this
doing it.
conversation about pleasure, but then like
Absolutely.
you just didn't see
And I
it.
remember one of the first things that I talk to people about is like, did you take a shower today? So I'm asking you, Abby, did you take a shower? Yes. I know you did. Because we do. Because that's kind of rote. But I wonder if you paid attention in the shower. Did you smell the soap? Did you, feel the water? Today I wanted a little cooler or a little warmer. Did you open the blind if you have a window, to let the light in? Did you turn on the light or have it dark? Did you do it this morning? Did you do it in the night? Did you put lotion on your body? And not like your kid's Vaseline. Do you know what I mean? Like, these are little things that we can do that can set us up for success. And women, if we concentrate on pleasure, if we concentrate on things that feel good, and yes, we can get to sexual pleasure, but these are just things that we can all do. 70% of women are not having, vaginal orgasms and are having trouble orgasming and whatever. But I mean, if you can get to an orgasm self-induced or with a partner or partners, there's chemistry in our brains that allow us to be more creative, more productive, and fully functioning. So pleasure is just the baseline. It's things like choosing the soap, eating on real plates, our everyday things, putting on clothes that make you wiggle, that shirt, that pair of pants, the panties, or not. You know what I mean? It's all of those things. And if you can build a foundation of pleasure, then you can think more clearly. You can be more productive. You can do the things that you want, so you can have the things that you desire. And that's like my mission, whether I get paid for it or not. That is my mission. That is my mission. We have to base things on pleasure, especially women, because it does fuel us. It does save us. It does heal us. And so that's what I'm about.
I love that. And in my mind, I'm like, check, I do that. I do that. I could probably figure out more of it. But I also, I think to get to this place and even be in a place of even launching this podcast and having these conversations, and what I've chosen to do in terms of the Down There Affair and this podcast is to bring joy and pleasure to women, and to remind us that we can be those, and we can be joyous and find those moments. And I have purposefully in my life, picked the right soap. My closet is cleaned out of the clothes. I remember keeping period underwear. And I'm like, why am I keeping period underwear? Like, I understand not everybody has money that they can replace their underwear weekly and things like that. And so I understand that. And I was at a time in my younger life where I did have to keep those because I didn't have income to do that. However, I likely did because I made other choices. And so, even if I had just kept period underwear in a different drawer, might have like felt better than having that mixed in with the pretty ones, right? Like, and just it's getting rid of this stuff that sort of bogs you down.
And period.
And then you have.
I was just going to say, like, period underwear creates a certain thing in our head. But period underwear is just the underwear you wear when you have your period. It can be pretty.
Right.
It can be.
Right.
And like you said about different choices, like, absolutely, I have a lot of privilege. I have had wonderful experiences that have set me up so that I can do things that other people may not be able to do. And I also recognize that a lot of this doesn't cost money.
Right.
It doesn't. Because I go to the thrift store, I go for a walk, like today, when I get off this podcast, I am going to take my doggie to the groomer because I can.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll
Yep.
raise my face to the sky and get some sun.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to stop
Yep.
thinking about things as the way we've been taught. I think we need to question everything that we've been taught.
Right.
I think we need
Yep.
to decide if that's our choice or someone decided that for us,
Right.
and that's
Mm-hmm.
how you figure out, what do I really like? Do I like that smell? Do I like
Mm-hmm.
those clothes? Do I like, skin showing or
Mm-hmm.
not? Or, how do I feel about my body? You know,
Mm-hmm.
is it because someone told me that
Right.
or didn't tell me that? You know,
Right.
I, I,
Yeah.
I just think that
Yeah.
we don't talk about these things enough, and so the down there affair, I mean, talking about, women's health and vulvas
Mm-hmm.
and clitorises and orgasms
Mm-hmm.
and health and talking to each other about, yeah, me too. Like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
cranky and hot, and I'm
Yep.
amazing and hot. Do you know what I mean?
Right? Just
Yeah.
HAWT
Yes.
all the
Do you
time.
know? And so, and
Yeah.
like you said, like, you're checking off, yes, I do that, I do that. But if we don't have a catalyst, some
Mm-hmm.
reason why we're being
Mm-hmm.
conscious, we stay the same. And if we're lucky enough
Right.
to have had parents that allowed you to be who you were or talked about these things or whatever, which
Mm-hmm.
is very, very rare, great. If we
Very rare.
didn't, then, find a friend, read something, listen to your body. Because
Right.
I know and I'm just meeting you
Mm-hmm.
today. But when you put on something that feels good and you look good, whether it's jeans or shorts or period
Mm-hmm.
underwear, you wiggle a little. I
Yep.
get goosebumps. That's my thing. I'm
Mm-hmm.
so in tune that I can, like, feel
Yep.
you. And
Right.
so that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to boost everybody a little so that they can feel amazing
Well,
in their own bodies and with their
I love
decisions
that.
and their thoughts and whatever, wherever they are. Yeah.
Right. And it comes from a place of knowing too for you, as you shared, you've had a hysterectomy and you had surgeries and you dealt with infertility. So you're you are also coming from it. Not that everybody has to land where they did because of hardships, but I think a lot of us
Hmm.
do choose. I don't know that I would have chosen to do the Down There affair and launch this podcast if I hadn't have lived 35
Yeah.
years in pain. And I'm grateful for that,
Same.
as you talk about looking backwards, I love this saying that we can, looking back is where we
Hmm.
connect the dots. And, when the puzzle pieces all come together, one of my best friends the other day, as I was talking about this and a few things, my girlfriend Sarah was like, Amy, I'm literally watching your whole entire life just fit
Hmm.
all of a sudden. And there's something so
Yep.
beautiful about that. And I feel like that is so true to you as well in terms of all of these pieces. And you finally were able to
Yeah.
connect those dots and we all get to benefit. You talk about
I
sex and
do.
money.
And nobody else does, especially
And
together.
right. And I feel
Yeah.
like, there's these taboos
Hmm.
around both when it comes to women. I mean, I love that we've had, we've already said clitoris
Yeah.
and vulva. I mean, that
Yeah.
makes me happy on so many levels. But you also talk about money and talk
Yeah.
about being rich and talk
Yeah.
about being a millionaire and pleasure. And so let's talk about
Yeah.
sex and money. So tell
I
me about
I
that.
think, you know, I talk about it so openly because nobody talks about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to ever be shamed or ashamed
Mm-hmm.
about anything. I have filed bankruptcy
Right.
and I'm a millionaire. I have
Mm-hmm.
not wanted to get out of bed and have had painful sex, and I have participated in some things that would make your hair curl. And if outed, I would be the first one to show you the video. You know, um,
Yes.
I would, because
I
yes,
believe
I
it.
just believe
I believe it.
that, you know, the nerve of people to try and decide for people what is right and wrong and what's good or bad or
Mm,
what you should or shouldn't do based on whatever it is that they have in their heads. And so I just started talking about it. I
mm-hmm.
started telling the truth. And
Right.
as a child, I knew my mom used to say that in the stroller, I would either love you or hate you instantly. Like I would either be like this or I would be like this,
Yep.
which arms outstretched or my arms crossed and folded with a frown. And I just knew what I knew about people, about things. And I would say, I was never like a rude child, but I would say,
Right.
things as I grew up. I would ask questions. I would, try to understand things. And so when I had a lot of money at first, I started talking about it, about the waste and about how uncomfortable I was, like spending $500 for lunch to impress my clients when I was really about like, I'm amazing and I'm doing great work. Why should I do this? But I knew I had to go along with the program, because that was what was
Right.
expected and I was not going to change it. And
Right.
I wanted that money, you know?
Right.
So I would talk to people about it, and then in my nonprofit days, I remember meeting someone. It was my first real job, a management job, and I had all these papers to fill out and stuff. And I didn't know about 403Bs or 401Ks or whatever. And someone came in, I'll never forget her. We are still friends to this day. I heard from her yesterday. And she came in and she said, "Do you know how to fill these out?" And I said, "No." Because I didn't have that, "Oh, yeah, 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 I got it," and got, the bravado. And
Right.
so she showed me and she taught me to, use a percentage when I was saving things so that as my salary grew, the percentage would stay the same, but the percentage would grow. Um, she taught
Right.
me to match, so by the time I got to Wall Street, I had already amassed a bunch of money because I did it before my first paycheck, which no one talks about. So then I started telling people. And then with Wall Street, I had so much money. And so, not that I made every decision right, but I think
Right.
I asked questions. I wasn't ashamed. I wasn't going to let anybody be ashamed, shame me. And so I started
Right.
talking about the
I
money
love that.
part. And then the sex part, I started that instantly when I realized that not everybody thought like I did and not everybody was having great sex, which incidentally, in my stupid 20s, what I thought was great sex, not so much. But in my stupid 20s, I couldn't understand why these women who were older than me were
Right.
not seeking pleasure. And I didn't really know that it was called pleasure at the time and whatever. Like, I want to really be
Right.
clear. But I kept talking about it and I wanted to talk about it and I just never stopped. And so my if you asked any of my friends, they're like, "Oh yeah, Wendy has asked me, about my poop. She's asked me about masturbation. She's given me presents. Like I think I gave Blake the womanizer as a gift, like sent it to her job. Like don't open this at work, but I sent
Great.
you a present." And she was like, she sent me like all these fireworks explosion emojis. And I was like, "Oh my God." Yeah, because I learned about new technology that helps women have orgasms. And I was like, whew, I mean, I wish my camera was
Got to share
differently
this.
positioned because over here I have a whole cabinet of womanizers and satisfiers and lubes and then I have like banks with a new adventure fund or a be my own boss fund and break the rules,
Oh, I love that.
little notebooks and stuff like this is who I am, whether I get paid for it or not. I'm going to always
Right.
talk about money. I'm going to always talk about sex. I've had to talk about politics recently because, Jesus, can we just have a moment? But my thread is, tell the truth, don't be ashamed. And when I talk to people, if they are feeling closed up, I tell them things that might change their opinion of me. For example,
Well
I
said.
want them to understand that I'm not up on some pedestal and have everything right. That I probably did whatever you're feeling ashamed about, I probably did it and worse or more. And I'm still who I am, you know? Like if you're
Right.
like, "Oh, I can't tell her that I had an affair with a married man," done that. Can't tell her that I had an abortion, done that. Can't tell, like I am the first one to be like, let's get this all out.
Right.
I've
Right.
lost all of my money
Mm-hmm.
and I've gotten it back. I have
Mm-hmm.
loaned people money who are shitty people and never paid me back. Like, let's talk
Right.
about these things. Everything you think that is horrible and you cannot overcome, me. So that's why I talk about it.
And why, and what do you think that does when we share that?
For me, first, I think it allows
Mm-hmm.
me to, level set and to check in
Mm-hmm.
and to reaffirm that I'm perfect just the way I am, and not perfect in a
Mm-hmm.
perfect way, but just fine, you know. I think for them
Yep.
it allows them, friends, clients, colleagues, it allows them
Mm-hmm.
to maybe move a little further, a little closer to being
Mm-hmm.
exactly who they are and who they want to be, because they might look up to me or might suppose that in some
Right.
way I have some other skill or knowledge or something that makes it
Mm-hmm.
different for me. And just level setting that allows them to say, okay, I'm going to tell the truth. Okay, I'm going to um, try something new. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
listen to my body and know the difference between, hey, Wen, how you doing? Fine. And, today I'm not great. you
Right.
know?
Right.
Because once you can get to there, then you can get to, okay, well, why? What's going on? And you can
Mm-hmm.
probably, well, you can work towards solving that or changing
Yep.
that in some little way, no matter where you are.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Right.
I've worked with people who have had serious, serious, serious things happen. And I've worked with people who are
Mm-hmm.
very, very privileged. It's all the same.
Right. Right.
Whatever you think, someone has it worse than you and someone has it better than you. And where
Mm-hmm.
you are doesn't mean that you are better or worse than anybody else.
Right.
You got your own stuff,
Yeah.
So that's what I think.
And those are the labels, and those are the labels we
Absolutely.
put on ourselves. I had a coach once who was like, there's
No,
really no right or wrong.
no.
I mean, there's governing laws to
Yes.
human beings, and we've got some of that, right? But it doesn't, but in, and even those probably could
Mm-hmm.
be looked
Mm-hmm.
at. And the boundaries are pushed by whoever
Mm-hmm.
chooses to push them. But there was that was really big for me once, in terms of, there's no right or wrong. It's what we put on it, right? Or if I wake up and, I have a bad day or a good day, you're just having a day. And so it's little things like that that have definitely helped me as I've, had coaches and wanted to purposefully not live
Yeah.
a shitty life, in terms of, where I was when it came to my health and my mental health. And then, on the road to building more wealth for myself, and having been that entrepreneur who I've had some amazing years and I've had some not amazing years, but I
Right.
haven't given up. And I've evolved where I've needed to, and felt shame for being
Oh, yeah.
ill, for spending a lot of I mean, I'm so grateful. I've had the same partner since I was 19 years old. Eric has been a
Yeah.
phenomenal guy, and sex was really
Yeah.
painful for me for
Yeah.
most of my life. And my husband happens to be a
Mm-hmm.
sexual dude, and he's brilliant and beautiful, and he's been patient and kind and
Yep.
understanding. And I know that not everybody
Agreed.
has that. And I also just have said this out loud to a lot of people who are going to listen, but like I haven't been able to, I wasn't always able to even tell him
Oh,
how
yeah.
painful, it made me think of when you were speaking of the women you would talk about it with pleasure. I'm like, I knew it was supposed to be
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
pleasurable, and I wanted to be intimate
Yeah.
with my partner. I always have, but it was
Yeah.
always painful. And I was lucky enough to have a partner who, when I finally told him, he was like, so then we
Right.
just do other things. Like, I didn't
No.
walk out the door. It took a huge amount of risk for me. And again, I think that's, all the things we think of or know, or it's shame. Like, I feel like I felt shame in my illness. I felt shame in the way that I was intimate. I felt so in shame in money and success and the goods and the bads. And it's just such an ugly
It
layer
is.
that we,
And think about you and I.
don't
Think
talk
about you and
about.
I. You know, we have a black woman, a white woman. I'm not sure how old you are, but we're the same and vastly different.
I'm 52.
Okay?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
we both are talking about these things because, yes,
Right.
when I was having painful sex, I first thought, well, let me go to the doctor. You know?
Right. Sorry, because I know where this is going. I don't mean
Right.
to laugh.
Let me go to the doctor.
Because they are
No,
not going to help.
you know?
Right.
And they were like, you're in menopause, honey. I was like, no, I'm bleeding. I had a hysterectomy 14 years ago. I should not be bleeding. Oh, well, maybe it's just, blood in your urine. It wasn't. And I
Right.
just, and my first thought wasn't to talk to my partner.
Right.
And I know this, and I do this, and I help other
Right.
people, so
Yeah.
I should have it figured out.
Right.
But I then got myself together and I was having the conversations and I'm
Right.
still having the conversations about you need to know this, and and I'm going to the pelvic floor therapist and I'm doing this. But the gap, the 2-year gap, I felt like, oh my God, I'm getting old. I appreciate getting older, but I was not
Right.
too happy with getting old, especially if this was going
Right.
to mess with my sexuality, and my pleasure.
Yeah.
I remember my hysterectomy. Excuse me. When I finally had the hysterectomy, I told the doctor, I was like, "Look, do what you have to do," because he was like, "We're going to try and go in through your stomach, but laparoscopically. But if we can't, we're going to have to
Yeah.
open you up." And I was like, "You do what you have to do to make this stop, but do not touch my clit. Do not. Do not. I don't want any trouble
Yep.
with my clit." And he was like, "I got you." And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Okay, then do what you got to do. I will sign whatever papers you want me to sign,
Yeah, exactly.
And that was, what, I was 40. So I'm 57 now, almost 17 years ago. And I remember and then I was okay for a while sexually and whatever. And then this
Right.
started, and I noticed a little dryness. And so I would just use more lube. And, my partner's been like, fine, no problem, and we've been together for 35 years, you know what I mean? Like college and,
Yeah.
but yeah, it did something to my psyche. I wasn't as confident, in talking about things. And you said something about, like not having the conversations and, not talking about it. And I remember I was on some call and they asked, "Do you ask for what you need?" And I was like, very confidently, "Yes, I do. In fact, I help other people do that." And then they said, "Do you ask for just enough or plenty?" Whew. Like I
Yeah.
saw your body language. Like you can feel that, like, whew, like I'm glistening, not just, because,
Yeah.
your whole body,
Yeah.
right? Because somewhere in you, you do it too, or you have done it. And we are loved and we are safe, but we still adjust ourselves and we do this and we are conscious and we have done the work and still it comes up.
Right. Yeah.
And so we have to keep working on it. And we have to keep talking about it. And we have to have those kind of reactions because until I said that, it wouldn't have resonated. You know? And so, and I say that, I'm not calling you on it. I'm calling to remember for me.
No, for sure.
Know?
Yeah.
And
Well,
everyone
me
who's
and everybody
listening.
else, I think that is so powerful. And if I think of where so many of my friends are at where my friends are at and then where the young women are at, like this became a fight for me in terms of like, I'm doing this now because there's all my friends' daughters are now being gaslit the same way that I was and their pain is not being heard. And I'm like, no fucking way. Like, no way. And then I'm listening to all my girlfriends not feel like themselves and not sharing their whole
Yeah.
truth. And they're certainly not asking for
Right.
plenty.
When I heard that, I mean,
And that's
I
not okay.
visibly, I was on a Zoom with hundreds of people, and I must have, made a visceral reaction because I was then called up to talk about it. There were hundreds of people on this
Right.
Zoom. And I had written, yes, of course. In fact, I do that. And they were like, oh, we see you, Wendy. We see you, Joanne. We see you, blah, 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 because they were, And then they asked the question, are you asking for just enough or plenty? And I wrote, dope. Like, and they were like, Wendy, would you like to talk about it? And I was like, oh, my whole body was like, no, 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 no. But I went up and I talked about it. And I was like, the thing that came to mind was I am loved really well. But sometimes he's in the music industry. So I knew he could be in the studio. So if I needed something, I would smush it down to this much so that he could respond with a yes or no.
Right.
I would figure out what I could and then like tell him later, like, this is what happened. And so, I did this, 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 and this. And when I got off that call, I called him and I was like, this is what I've been doing. And he was like, oh my, he was pissed. He was pissed. He was like, do not censor yourself for me. Like, no, no, no.
Right.
I will tell you if I'm in the studio and I can't talk now, but I will, as I have before said, but I will come out of the studio if you need something right now. And I was like, whoa. And I still find myself sometimes, but I'm aware of it now. And I think that's the other thing that we have to do is why I talk about sex and money is we have to be aware down there.
Yeah. Right. And I love that. And I think the awareness is huge. And then it's also once you are aware, to your point, are we holding ourselves accountable? And, similar to you, I feel like we're living so much of the same when, 2 years into menopause, I'm like, this has been fine. And I'm so excited to have all those bits and pieces removed so that I could have pleasurable sex. And then all of a sudden it started hurting again. And I found myself a couple times going like, that's okay. And grin and bear it. And I'm like, it feels good. Cause we all have clits. And if you use them right, if all of it can like feel really good. And then, but what I learned was then I actually turned to Eric and said, so this isn't working. He's like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I'm not. And because there's not a single moment in his life where he wants me to be in pain. And so then what I didn't do years ago, I immediately went back to my gynecologist. And then I'm almost 52. I've been in this space my whole life. I had no idea pelvic health in Canada practitioners were covered under physiotherapy. I'm like, my husband's a Toronto firefighter. One of the best gifts we have is we have unlimited physiotherapy. I'm like, I could have been having pelvic health care since he's been a firefighter for the past 20 years. But I haven't. And then so I immediately, because I'm action oriented, nobody mentioned it. And now I'm literally telling everyone. I'm like, do you know that you could go to pelvic health? And I told Lisa, the woman I met last, I was like, just so you know, I'm going to be talking about you. You're going to be on my podcast. And there are going to be women who are going to be calling you from all over the place because this is ridiculous that we don't know this. Like, we're doing Kegels wrong. Who knew?
I knew because I learned, but I went to pelvic floor therapy yesterday and I told you my hip has been bothering me. And she said, can I see you walk? And I said, sure. And she said, I'm going to do the internal exam, but I think this has to do with your pelvic floor muscles. And I was like, what?
Right.
And she was like, yeah, when you do the exams, because it was a different one that I've been going to the same one, but she was out with her kids. And she was like, if you're not comfortable, it's okay. And I was like, no, it's fine. But I've just been seeing the same person. And so she was like, so it says here that sometimes when she's doing the internal exam and the internal manipulation, it hurts on the left side. And she says, so this muscle is connected. And she's like, I don't know, but I'm going to try. Would you let me try? And so, yes. Like, it's like, like, why is no one talking about this? Why are we putting up with this shit? why, and she was like, and
Exactly.
what about your urogynecologist? And I didn't know that till maybe 6 months ago, that there was a urogynecologist. It's one doctor. It's one doctor. Yes. And you look like you didn't know that either. So there is a
No,
urologist
not at
and
all.
there is a gynecologist. And then there are specialists, urogynecology, because they understand that it is all connected. So when I'm having painful sex, I'm
Right.
having painful sex entering, and the urethra is irritated. So when I go to the gynecologist, she's
Right.
like, everything looks good here. When I go to the urologist, he's like, oh, you have a little bit of blood in your urine, but you should see your gynecologist. I'm like, "Ooh, fuck." So smush it together. These are
Yep.
specialists that nobody is talking about, but I am, and I'm going to continue to
Yep.
shout it from the rooftops. And your pelvic floor therapy comes up as therapy, as physical therapy, like my knee
Yep.
needs to be worked on, or my shoulder hurts, or whatever. It is the same thing, and it is covered, and people don't know.
And that was it. I started saying to my girlfriends, we literally talked about it at dinner on Friday night. I was like, so it's like you
Yeah,
go for your knee, you have massages. We have 17 muscles. All of a sudden
yeah,
I'm a freaking expert after 1 hour appointment. But I'm like, we have muscles, and yes, you have to go internal to flick. But she was like, tight
yeah,
muscles, same thing. Like, what's happening on your right? And I was
yeah.
just blown away. And now I'm gonna see her
Every
every
week.
week because
Yes.
why would I not?
Because if my knee was bothering
And
me,
right,
yeah,
you'd get it
and I'd
fixed.
go to physical therapy once a week or more.
Right. And guaranteed if there was like penis pelvic
There
health,
is.
everybody would be go right. Well, when
Yes,
I didn't know there was, and I'm sure
there
people are
is.
going, and they probably know it's
Absolutely. And it's
covered.
covered as well. And they have the same
Yeah.
issues that we do. They do. So urethra, it's not called
Right.
urogyno, but I forgot what it's called, but it's the same. They have
Yeah.
pelvic health, they have, vas deferens, like they are, because, our bodies are basically the same until we're born, and then, whatever. But
Yeah.
but yeah, yeah. So I commend you for shouting it
It's
from the
so, and
rooftop
it's,
too.
yeah, because we have to, and it's just, and I love, and this was one of the things, like when you say there's the urogyno, that's part of the problem for women is, if I think of my journey with endometriosis, it's like you look one way, but it's often
Yeah,
on your bladder or your bowels, or, when you're in surgery, the gyno only knows this amount of surgery. They don't know the bladder and the bowels. So I went from like having surgery and they did laparoscopy on my uterus. And then I was like turned upside down and they were looking at my bladder and my bowels. And, there's got to be space in the
right,
middle. They're missing.
right,
Like,
right.
and it's just, they're missing. Like we're still missing so much when it comes to our
Yeah,
health, and it's not okay. And that's why these
so important.
conversations
Yeah,
matter so much. And one of the things is you were talking about pleasure and toys. One thing that I was really secretly proud of at New Year's, my son had his birthday and he's 22, and he had a mixed crew of people and they were giving each other gifts. And I don't know if it was the girl who gave whatever, but one of the women, one of his girlfriends, someone in that mixed crew had given her a vibrator. And I love, and not one of them was her
yeah,
boyfriend or girlfriend. And I love that in that
yeah,
mixed crew, because that would
yeah,
not have happened
yeah.
in my crew. Like when we all got engaged, we had like the
Yeah.
sex toy parties and they were funny and
But nobody
hilarious. And
used
you
it.
went into a
Right.
secret room. Nope. You went into a
Right.
secret room and you picked your stuff and you kind of talked about it and then you never talked about it
And
again.
9 times out of 10, you didn't really use it either. Like it was like peer
Right.
pressure to get something. And when they used
Right.
to have those like pleasure parties and toy parties and that kind of stuff, like
Mm-hmm.
I turned the industry on its head, because I was like, I don't care if you buy a dildo or a vibrator. I care
Right.
that you understand your options and what this is for and what
Right.
you're going for. So I'm not
Right.
coming for free. You're going to pay me for the
Mm-hmm.
education, and if you buy some shit afterwards, have at it. Which was a whole different
Right.
model. And people were like, I got to pay for
Right.
this? Yup. If you want me, because I
Mm-hmm.
am not playing a stupid
Yep.
game where we put whipped cream on a shot glass and we practice a
Right.
blowjob. Because if you don't know who should get a blowjob or who should not, or whether you even want to give a
Right.
blowjob or not, then I don't want to
Yeah.
talk to you, because I am not ever doing the, oh, just fake it. Oh, you should blow him and he's not eating your pussy. Like, I'm not perpetuating this. So this is an
Yeah.
educational thing. And once we get the education done, I will show you some things that I recommend and why I recommend these things that say for novelty use only. Do not put that in your body, because that is their way
Right.
of protecting themselves, which means there's probably some shit on there or in there that should not go in or on your body.
Right.
So that's how I started talking about it. So I rep the things
I love
that
it.
are either pleasurable for me or that I believe in and trust the products. And that's
Right.
what I do. But yes, absolutely. And I I just went to a conference in Vegas last week where it's the altitudes conference, and it's
Okay.
adult novelties and that kind of stuff, whatever. And a lot of it is crap.
Cool.
Let's just say that.
Of
But there
course.
are
Yeah.
organizations and companies that are making good things, and there's people making like Wicked. I can talk about them. It's a lube group, and
Okay.
they have a specific line for menopause.
Oh,
Wicked is the
cool.
brand. Uber Lube,
Okay.
clean, clear stuff, and they make travel stuff. They're like, stick it in your bag with your lipstick. You know what I mean? Like, like those are the kind of Womanizer, which the name Womanizer used to freak me out, but then I spoke to the people and they told me it was a German man who created it for his wife, and he meant like, ooh, like a grand woman. He didn't speak English very well, and they
Yeah.
just kept it, like, because we
Right.
know the connotation of womanizer, and I'm like, I don't want that,
Yes.
but it's
Yeah.
incredible technology,
Okay.
that doesn't hurt, and you can adjust it and whatever. I mean, so yes, we have to talk about these things, and we have to talk about what's good for your body, what's not good for your body in general, but also specifically, like, what do you like, what do you not like? And so I do things like test things on your arm, or test things on your hand. Like, you need to know and be able to discern whether that makes you wiggle or whether you're like, ugh, no matter what anybody else thinks. So
Yeah, totally. And it's all going to be different
yeah,
for all of
yeah,
us. And I think it comes from, like, again, like, what was life like when, like, what was your childhood?
all of it.
What was, like, what happened to you physically and mentally, and, and then how you choose to evolve. And I look at some of the 20-year-old kids now, as I look at, my friends' kids, and they are epically comfortable with who they are and
Or
who they
not,
choose. Like,
or
I'm
not.
fluid, or I do this, or
It's
not, or not, and
it's
it
like,
still exists.
oh,
And I'm grateful to see, like, I have two boys who are
yeah,
comfortable talking to
I
me,
love it.
and I'm their mom, and they don't
Right.
just go to dad, and it's matter of fact, and they're allowed to have private lives, and I don't want to know all the details, but I am
Yeah,
here to keep you
yeah.
safe. And, not only are you to be safe for girls, make sure or boys, whoever they choose, they've chosen to be
Hmm.
with women right now. But make sure
Yeah.
they're good to you too. Like, it's not like, I also want, it's
Yep.
got to be both ways. And then as we evolve and we hit this menopause space, like, I don't know if my friends have dry
Right.
vaginas or not.
Yeah.
Some of them might. They may or may not talk about it. I happen to be the one who sparks
Me
all these
too. Me too,
conversations,
sister. High five.
which
Yes.
is great, right? And I'm so
Yep.
great. It takes
Yep.
one, right? And so and I people don't know, and if they've been shy most of their lives, then, but, like, you don't want a
You
dry
don't.
vagina right
It
now, and that's,
hurts,
like, one
and
of the number
yeah.
one things.
Yep.
Yeah, and you don't
Yep.
feel sexy, and
Libido too,
so, and
like I
yeah,
didn't
well,
lose
yeah.
libido at all. But some of my friends
Mm,
are like, I don't care about it. And I'm like, if you really don't care about it, that's fine. But if you don't care about it because you're
yeah,
not feeling this right now, there are things that you can do. Is this new behavior? Is this new,
yeah,
like, is your vagina dry? Like, are you
right,
still aroused but not getting wet? Like, so
right.
yeah. And now people are used to me, and
Yeah.
sometimes they'll be like, um,
Yep,
can I talk to you? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I mean, we'll be at the library, and they'll be like,
absolutely.
can we just go take a walk?
Yeah.
Sure. You know what I mean? Because they've heard, or,
Yeah.
whatever. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Well, and libido is a big thing in terms of, like, I think, especially as we get to this later life stage of, what is it tied to? For me, I lost it and I wasn't okay to have it lost. Like it just disappeared. I was like, how am I not even watching like the like movie scene that used to, arouse? And I'm like, it's like literally drying paint.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I've just chosen, I don't want to live that. Like I am not okay. And I wasn't even when I was dealing with all this stuff anything in my life. I've been the outspoken one. I've eventually, absolutely, did I carry the shame and did I keep my mouth shut and did I not ask for plenty? 100% and 100 times over. However, many times more than average, I did something about it. And I wasn't okay not to have it. And it wasn't okay for my partner either. And he wasn't feeling, he's like, do you still love me? Are you still interested? It's like, how do I tell you yes, but I have no way of showing you, and it's not about you and it's about me, but you don't understand me because why would you? Because it was like this and now it's not. And I just wasn't okay. And so my doctor's like, you should be fine. I'm like, no. Like I'll take the testosterone in the bottle that has a man's body on it and I'll slap it behind my legs. And because I'm not willing not to have it, or at least have to try. And I sometimes look at my girlfriends who are like, yeah, no, it doesn't. And go find someone who can help you. Like literally, like because I don't want that to be gone. And so, yes, you deal with like, maybe there's a bit more hair behind my knees that wasn't there before, but I don't care. I now can watch a show, right? You're like, God damn. But now I have like that like testosterone, as much as it was for me tied to pleasure, and it's also been tied to like drive.
Oh yeah.
Like, I think of where I was again when you talk about going backwards and connecting the dots. Like, I have had drive most of my, like, pick myself up. I don't stay in the dust. I hit the dust. Similar, I think you and I both similarly, but I get back up. And I got up, but I was halfway. And so, 7 months on testosterone, and I'm like, whew, here I am. Right back, if not better, because I've educated myself and I'm on the estrogen and I'm on the progesterone and I'm doing the testosterone and I'm weightlifting and I'm eating properly and doing the things and going to the pelvic health, because I don't want to live like shit.
But that drive that you have found again is because of all those things, but it's also because of you. And there's so many people that don't have that weren't encouraged, and it's funny, like I talk about kind of like mere mortals, like most people are on this plane, and without any intervention or a catalyst, they're going to be there. And I just feel like, no, someone's got to nudge them, or someone's got to say, it's not okay, or ask them, is this really what you want? And get them to tell the truth. Because for some people, look, I'm old now, I don't care, whatever. But I'd say a lot of those people that are saying that's not really true. And so I just, am poking people and nudging and.
Yeah. I know so many of my girlfriends are going to listen to this episode and be like, oh my God, Wendy is just like you.
That's right. And when I come to Toronto, we're going to hang out.
Probably 5 years more fun. Yep. 5 more years fun because of what you've been through. But like, it's like how status quo is just not okay for me. And it's no longer okay for me. And it's no longer okay for anyone else in my circle. And if you don't want to hear it, then maybe we won't be in the same circle, but I'm still going to say it. And the amount of women just even standing in my underwear with my sign behind me at a couple of outreach opportunities, I had 230 conversations. Like, people just didn't come by my booth to win the prize, to, throw their name on a piece of paper, because I'm never going to let people just do that. But the depth of the conversation that these women wanted to have with me, a complete stranger, standing in my underwear on a ladies' ski day when they could have been having one more shot ski or another cocktail or a run down the hill, they stood there and they talked to me and they told me and they shared with me how bad it was, or how unhappy they were, how they were told the wrong thing. And it was unreal and beautiful. And I was so great in that moment. If that was all I did with this, what I'm doing, I was like, I've won. But if I can do that over 2 days, then holy
so
shit,
excited.
having these conversations is just like meeting women like you and just sharing our stories. And, you know, if one person listens to our conversation, Wendy, they'll be enlightened. And that is
Hands down.
gold.
Hands down. I
Because
totally agree with you.
the ripple effect to that
Absolutely.
is unreal.
Because she may influence, first of all, she may save herself, but she may influence her daughter, the lady at the counter, you know, because now she's smiling, so somebody will smile back. So maybe, you know, like we never will know the full extent, but we know. We know. And so, yes, I cannot wait to meet you. Cannot wait.
Oh, I can't wait to meet. I feel like we could talk forever and ever and ever and ever. And I'm so glad. I'm just going to call us friends now.
We are.
So
Yes.
we're friends. And I'm actually coming to New York at the end of May with my best friend and her daughter and my son. So I'm going to send you those dates and maybe we'll just have a
absolutely
cocktail.
Will. We'll do something fun.
In a nice glass at a nice restaurant.
Yes. Oh, please.
Dressed in our best
I'm
clothes.
gone from the 8th through the 15th, but other than that, I am here and I'm around. And so hopefully this will match up. And
oh my God,
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Yay.
Okay, so Wendy, so many women are going to listen to this and they're going to want to get a hold of you. How can they do that?
WendyPetties.com is my website, but I'm on all social media. I'm on Facebook, Wendy Petties, Petties. And on Instagram, I'm the Wendy Petties. But you can find me. You can find me. I'm easy to find. I'm not in the witness protection program. And yes.
Damn, I believe in my mind because I'm a crime drama junkie. Like I have to know someone in the witness protection program. I know everybody tells me, my husband always tells me, he's like, Amy, they're never going to tell you. Then I'm going to figure it out. So maybe it is you, Wendy, because you said you weren't. So maybe you are.
Hey. But I cannot wait.
But I'm going to link. Yes, I can't wait either. I'm going to link all your stuff in the show notes. And I'm going to pull out those lube products and the products that you shared because I just know people are going to be clicking.
Perfect.
So Wendy, thank you so much for investing your time with me.
You are so welcome. Thank you for spending the time with me. Email me if you need any stuff because I can kind of pull some stuff together so that you can put it cleanly in there and just let me know.
Yeah, we might do that. I might just have you create like the perfect recipe and then we can send it to people.
All right, lovely.
Amazing. Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for getting loud with us today on the Down There Where podcast. If this conversation resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe so you never, ever miss an episode. And leave us a review. It would help us reach more women who've been told to suffer in silence. And here's the thing. Awareness isn't enough. We need action. We need funding. We need change. That's where the Down There Affair comes in. We're a global peer-to-peer fundraising movement putting menstrual health center stage, from menstruation to menopause and everything in between. Diseases affecting men receive twice the funding of those affecting women. Only 11% of research dollars go to women's health. We're here to change that. Visit downtherewhere.org to register for our next walk, start fundraising, or join the movement. We can't do this alone. Oh, and follow us on social at the Down There Affair, because this conversation doesn't stop when the episode ends. Whether you're dealing with your own health journey, supporting someone who is, or ready to demand the care we all deserve, you're in the right place. Getting uncomfortable is where change happens, and we're never going back. I'm Amy Milne. Stay loud.
Oh, that was binge-worthy.